Good afternoon, everybody. Jonas Schwartz in SNY's studios downtown. We interrupt our regularly scheduled programming to bring you the breaking news. The Mets have released an update on a medical update on pitcher Jeurys Familia. He was examined today by the doctors at the hospital for special surgery in New York and diagnosed with an arterial clot in his right shoulder. Familia will see Dr. Robert Thompson, tomorrow in St. Louis for further tests and possible surgery. Mets GM Sandy Alderson will address the media before the game in Milwaukee tomorrow. This is obviously serious news for the Mets, as they had just gotten Familia back from the suspension in which he began the season. Also, it is just another injury in what has been just hit after hit for this ball club. Yoenis Cespedes, Noah Syndergaard, Steven Matz, Seth Lugo, and now their closer, Jeurys Familia, of course, is such a big part of what they do. And obviously, Familia coming off a game yesterday in which his velocity and command wasn't exactly how he would have liked it. For more on this story, let's bring in Daily News baseball columnist John Harper, who joins us on the phone. John, what's your reaction?
Just kind of stunned, Jonas. It just, as you said, these things just keep coming one after another to the Mets, and all now in different areas of the team, and just little by little, it's going to have. I mean, the Mets have played through a lot of this stuff. They've been playing pretty well, but sooner or later, it's just hard to overcome all these injuries. And as you know, Familia, I mean, he's had his ups and downs the last couple of years, but he's saved a ton of games for this team. And he's a huge piece that they missed early on. Finally, that caught up with him when he was suspended. Now, you know, you just wonder. I mean, first of all, I'm worried about him, and because these things, blood clots can be serious. He could end up having surgery. And I mean, I remember David Cohn going through something like this way back in '96. He had an aneurysm with a blood clot, had surgery, and it was actually a similar time frame to it was like sometime in early May, and he ended up coming back in September. But you never know how these things could go. So first of all, you have to be concerned about him, and then, you know, how do the Mets make up for his loss in the bullpen? That's another issue. Well,
and would you agree that while the Mets have taken many hits on the injury front this year, Familia, while they did, you know, survive without him for the suspension, is really an indispensable guy to what this team does?
Yeah, because even if Addison Reed, you know, he did a pretty decent job closing early. He had a couple, at least one hiccup, I remember. But you put him in the closer spot, and that pen just becomes so thin, and it's already worn down because they haven't gotten a lot of length from their starting pitching, because especially early in the year when they were so careful with the pitch counts, these guys, they have 3 or 4 guys who are among the league leaders in appearances. And just as Terry Collins said just last week when I asked him about the pen, he said, yeah, if we continue on this pace, the bullpen's going to be burned out by July. So that's a huge problem for this team. I don't know. It's hard to go find, you know, veteran relievers at this time of year. You know, in another month or so, maybe there'll be teams willing to trade, but you're going to have to overpay, really overpay at this time of year if you're going to get something, even from teams that are losing, because nobody's willing to give up on a season quite yet. So they're going to have to probably find, you know, bring up guys from the minors, but their pitching is so thin at the top levels of the minor leagues right now. There's not a lot of obvious help there.
Well, John, you mentioned, you know, and obviously we're not sure how long he would have to be out for here, but if he's out for an extended period of time, do you think that's the route the Mets have to take? They have to go out and make a trade for somebody? Or do you think they try to deal with this as they dealt with the suspension?
Well, yeah, if he's out for an experience, they're going to have to get somebody at some point, no doubt about it. Where you would go, I mean, you look at some of the teams that are losing right now and might be willing to give up something at some point, but it's still early. You know, maybe a team like the Royals, who are going to probably break up that team. Are you going to go get a Kelvin Herrera? He would obviously fill that role, but you're going to have to give up something really good to get him. There's other guys. Maybe, you know, at some point you can maybe go get a Joaquin Benoit from the Phillies even. But again, you know, the Mets aren't in that position, aren't really in a position to give up a lot for these type of guys. They don't want to give up the top prospects, obviously, but I think that's probably the route they would take, even if it comes to maybe giving up lower-level minor leaguers for teams like might want to be rebuilding, like the Royals or even the Phillies.
John, the Mets have already proven resilient to some degree this year. Obviously getting those wins in Washington where it looked like their season already was on the line. Terry Collins has rallied his troops off of the injuries to Cespedes and Syndergaard. You think this locker room and this clubhouse can withstand a loss of this magnitude if it's for an extended period of time after what they've already dealt with in terms of injuries?
It'll be difficult, no doubt. We have seen this team fight through a lot of things, even going back to last year when they made that run at the end of the year. Looked like they were out of it. So I wouldn't count them out, but sooner or later you pay a price for when these kind of injuries pile up, and it does become kind of a mental battle as much as dealing with the loss of players themselves. It'll be a huge test because when you're missing Syndergaard already, Cespedes already, you don't know what you better hope that Harvey has something left and he's going to come back strong from the suspension. But it is a lot to ask for a team to keep fighting through these things, and there's nothing that kind of demoralizes a team more than to have bullpen problems. We've even seen that from the Mets going back to like 07, 08. That just really wears a team out psychologically if you're going to lose games late. So that's really becomes what you got to be concerned about now with this team.
Could you see Terry Collins relying more on his starters, driving them deeper into games, which is something he has not wanted to do at this early juncture of the year, as he moves forward if Familia is indeed out for an extended period of time?
Not to any serious, real significant extent, I should say. I think maybe they'll give him a little bit more of a leash to go 115 or so sometimes, but they've started to do that a little bit now. But the front office isn't going to let Collins do that, even if he wants to. I think they're still going to look at the big picture here and look at the overall health and the future of the starting pitchers. Even if it gets to a point where I know this team is built to win now, but I don't think they're going to jeopardize what they would think would be jeopardizing the health and the future of these starters to try and win this year. So, yeah, I mean it's a balancing act, but I don't think that would necessarily be the answer. No.
All right, John, we appreciate it as always. We will speak to you throughout the day here on SNY. Daily News baseball columnist John Harper.